Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to welcome you back to some 30 Days Reforged. It's been a while since we've had this on the channel, so it is nice to have a return to form. Today I've got a 5 versus 3 siege battle for you. This is being played on the Dale map made by WK, and it is a very, very close siege, just down to a couple of percentage points. So let's go ahead and take a look at the attacking armies, and then we'll move inside the Citadel and see what the defenders are bringing to bear today. The first army we're going to look at today is the forces of Gondor, being commanded by Veverax. He's brought some Gondorian infantry, as you would as Gondor, of course. Gondor spearmen, which is where their specialties tend to lie. More Gondor infantry here. We're going to have a bunch of them pushing the towers up. Actually, he's brought a good deal of towers, mostly as cover here, so he'll be moving only a select few of the towers forward and using the rest of shield districts from incoming fire, which is a pretty clever use, I think. Got some Citadel Guard here, armor-piercing spearmen, veterans of Osgiliath, some Numlothian Honor Guard, Pelargir Marines, Fountain Guard, because of course we have Fountain Guard, and then finally we've got some Axemen of Losarnak here. Now I'm not seeing a cavalry force on the field for him today, although he could potentially have some hidden units out here. There is some, pardon me, some terrain that does lend itself to hiding units and surprising your enemies with them. Let's move on now to the next attacking army. This one is Khand, of course, being played by Mr. Malsman 34. He's brought some Wind Riders, powerful anti-cavalry, light cavalry, and there's quite a lot of them in that unit as well. They are very fragile, however, so you want to be careful with them. Norad Halberds here, Variag Warriors, 2 companies of Variag Warriors, the third one, in fact. He's also brought Brotherhood of the Sword, Brotherhood of the Axe, Nomadic Warriors, and another company here of the Nomadic Warriors. Looks like he'll be using his Brotherhood units to try and establish a beachhead on the wall, which is always a risky affair. You do risk losing your elite infantry early on, but you can also establish a foothold that's going to allow the rest of your units to get inside the Citadel and make a nuisance of themselves. Got some Nomadic Raiders here, some Bowmen, 3 units of Variag Bowmen from the looks of things, some Nomadic Infantry, which are a bow scimitar infantry hybrid, and some Nomadic Warriors here. So a pretty heavy skirmish force. Another company of Wind Riders of Khand over here. And I don't see any of the truly heavy hitting cavalry units, so I don't think they're really expecting cavalry to rush out the gates and try and isolate armies and deal severe damage to them. We'll see how that works out. Moving on over here, we have the Army of Ambar, played by Ellipsis. Alright then. He's brought some Balakath Axe Guard. Got some Beligir Pikemen here as well. Balakath Shield Bearers, which are mace infantry. Nice armor piercing on them. Adunayim Shield Guard, which were previously Numenorian Spearmen. Corsair Blackguards, Corsair Fencers, more Corsair Blackguards, Castamir's Rangers, and some Narnaro Guard. It's entirely possible he's got some hidden units somewhere here, so as we'll see a little bit later on in the battle. Moving on, it looks like we got the Shire from a distance here. And the Farmers of Buckland. This is that's a lot of stuff. The 18th MSC RCT Scouts 88. I'm just going to call him Scouts 88. That's a lot easier. We've got Farmers of Buckland here. 2 units of them. Light infantry with armor piercing. Proudfoot Protectors, who are the pike / crossbow unit. Although that spear is much smaller than the pike they actually produce. Got some Battling Brandy Bucks, which are another armor-piercing. I think most of the Shire stuff is armor-piercing, which is a little strange to me. More Farmers of Buckland. I think this is a light infantry unit? I could be wrong. Hold on. It's kind of hard to tell. Battling Brandy Bucks, Farmers of Buckland. Yeah, the names don't really give you much of an idea about what these individual units do. I think the Farmers of Buckland are a skirmish unit? I think that they're stone throwers. I could be wrong, though. Of course, we've also got Ents, and some more Battling Brandy Bucks. A lot of armor-piercing infantry. They trade pretty well with the more expensive heavy units that are going to be inside the Citadel, so it's not a bad pick at all. More Battling Brandy Bucks. It's interesting. There's not too much of a distinction between a lot of the Shire units. They're all just armor-piercing units, but alright. Orc Archers here, being commanded by Derek CK154. 2 companies of the Orc Archers here. He is, of course, playing as Mordor. Orc Fodder manning the ram. And the meat of the Mordor force is going to be inside of this this little fortress here that they've made out of siege equipment. And you can kind of tell that Maybe these players are newer to Reforged, but they're definitely not strangers to Medieval 2. This is a tactic that a lot of people use in classic multiplayer when they're doing sieges to avoid getting themselves charged down, because sallies are so common. But in any case, Orc Fodder here, 2 units of them, 1 unit of Orc Catapult. Got some Olokai here, that sexy model, ported over from, I believe it was Lord of the Rings Conquest by Crimson Bahamut. Got some Sauron's Will mixed in with some Nazgul, which are a pretty scary little unit. They're armor piercing, I think they've got 6 or 7 HP, and they're also relentless, so they can't be stunned. So they're a little bit of a meat grinder, especially when you mix them inside other things, where you can be looking at like a unit of Orc Fodder and be like, yeah, my units could beat that, and then suddenly they're losing heavily, and that's because of the presence of the Nazgul. So a really nice unit for surprising your enemies with. Got some Orc Maulers here, Shock Infantry. Blackguard of Barad-dûr, who have a new model and new textures, courtesy of Cowering Coma. Really, really high quality, as we've come to expect from Coma. They look fantastic. That's more Blackguard here. Excellent pushing units to use in sieges. Mornon Halberds. 2, 3 units of Mornon Halberds. Got some Temple Executioners here with their armor upgrade. Orc Javies. I think there's 2 companies there of the Orc Javies. And that should bring us around here. Back to Gondor. So that's going to do for the attackers. Let's go ahead and see what the defenders are bringing to the battle today. We've got 3 defenders. One of them is Dol Amroth. So we've got some Black Swan Renegades here, Mace Infantry, excellent at smashing apart heavily armored troops. Gwythi Myrdain hanging out here up on the wall. I believe the reskin was done by Dreezy. It looks real good. And they are now a two-handed mace unit. So they're more shock infantry than the defensive one-handed mace unit that they were before. Because I guess Imladris needs more shock infantry. They have the Brunnen River Wards, and of course they've got the golden armored Eldarinwe swordsman as well. So it looks like the Brunnen River Wards finally got rid of that janky looking two-handed sword that they had previously. I think that's a good change. They look far, far better now in my opinion. So Brunnen River Wards, got one of them here. Got some Eldarinwe spearmen, more Eldarinwe spearmen. Got some Swords of Rivendell. One company of them, I believe, using their armor upgrade. Imladris Guardians as well, heavy line infantry. Swords of Rivendell here as well. I know we've got some more Imladris troops hanging around here. Yes, the main kind of thrust of the Imladris armies in the center. We do have a Dol Amroth player, as I mentioned, and they have 2 units of the Outer Theorem. That's a risky prospect in a siege, but it looks like we're definitely going to see some sally action here. Imladris sentries, fantastic units in a defensive siege. I think we've got 2 units of them. 1, 2. Another company of Brunnen River Wards. And Spears of Rivendell, which are apparently halberds, even though those are very clearly spears. I don't know, it's a little bit confusing. No Return to Warriors, looking like they just got a new reskin in the, I don't know if this came in the hotfix or if this came earlier, but they look fantastic. That's done by Arthalion. And then, of course, we have the Eldarinwe Sword Masters as well. Let's pop in here. I know we've got a Darwinian player. Yes, indeed. We have the army of Commander Jervis, who actually sent me this replay, so big thank you to him. We've got the Elvelen Hammer Guard, who have changed from a 2-handed hammer unit to a 1-handed hammer unit. They're still armor piercing, and they have a really good buff for the morale of units nearby. That's going to be very important for a lot of the Elvelen units, helping them to hold the line. Got more Quinty Glade Masters as well. Looks like a couple more Quinty Pikes here. A lot of Pikes on the defensive side of things. I'm seeing 3 Pikes there. Got some Nandor Glade Guard, Locked Morale, Armor Piercing. Can't hide anywhere, but of course you can't do that as a defender in a siege. Got some Elvelen Infantry here. 1, 2, 3. And we got some Morquendi Bows. And it looks like 3 Morquendi Bows with their Poison Arrows. They're actually a pretty decent unit in melee afterwards with their 2-handed spears. We have some Elvelen Marksmen in addition to, and some Keldwyn River Patrol to tie the whole thing together. And I know we've got some more units over here on the wall, so we've got some Godalim Ainiaur, Ethelond Men-at-Arms from Dol Amroth, more Ethelond... Oh, no, actually these are Ternostian Spearmen, so 2 units of Ternostian Spearmen. Another company, the Black Swan Renegades. So we've got some dismounted Knights of the Silver Swan. No longer are they called Talon Knights. Ethelon Men-at-Arms, some Glade Guard, and some Marksmen mixed in here. This looks like a real high-budget battle. I'm excited to see this kick off. More dismounted Knights of the Silver Swan to act as a bulwark and to hold that line at all costs. Gwythi Arthand up on the walls here. Real powerful defensive unit. I find it's probably a little bit better used in support, but I'm a little bit out of the loop on the Reforged meta at this point. So maybe it's more offensive at this juncture, but I think this model could probably use a little bit of an upgrade. I know we've got more. We've got some more forces stationed over here on the other end. Yes, indeed. This is where Dalaran is stationed all of their Athelon men-at-arms that aren't positioned on the other end of the city. Got some Athelon halberdiers in here. 1, 2. Tirthire marksmen. 2 companies of. Covering the gatehouse here, but I don't know how useful they're going to be. There's a lot of intervening architecture that's going to make it pretty difficult for them to shoot people coming across that bridge. Yeah, I think Ambar is going to have a lot of cover moving in there, and of course Ambar is a reasonably well armored faction as well, so they're probably not going to fear those Tirthire marksmen all that much. But that's going to do for most of the defender units, unless we've missed a few here. Of course, we got some Haven Guard over here, some Doran Urnal archers, and some Tirthire marksmen who are already opening fire on Mordor. That's pretty well going to cover the long and short of the defending assets. Let's go ahead, jump to the battle. Hope you guys enjoy it. So just taking a look at the order of battle here for the defenders, Rex Jervis is, I think, fairly wisely positioned centrally. He has access to basically every major choke point in the city from this central plaza here, so he is able to reinforce things as cracks begin to open up in the defending lines, and he's already settling down here with a crap ton of his infantry. Mark Wendy bows, hammer guard, with some glade guard mixed in there as well. Got the pikes. Yes, this is really the meat and potatoes of his force being brought down to the subsequent levels in order to aid in the defense. The first army that's going to make it to the walls looking like it's going to be Gondor under Vivarax. We're going to go ahead, slow things down just a little bit here. Already reached the ramparts, and they're beginning to batter down the gates. It's interesting that the defenders decided to not defend the walls at all. I think most of the time people expect there to be a lot of artillery, and so the walls will very quickly be rendered useless. But in this case, it would have actually worked out, because none of the defenders have any artillery except for, I believe, Mordor.
Has reached our walls.
Let's see here. Umlauder's moving forward to check the advance of Gondor. Nothing happening with the Outer Theorem. It's probably pretty wise to not go out the central gate against Gondor. Gondor does have a lot of spearmen. I don't think I saw any pikemen in there, so at least they've got that going for them. But there's certainly a ton of spears there that would make the lives of those cavalry very miserable. Gwaithiarthan being pulled off the walls and pulled back. Mordor winning forces filtering out from the central plaza. Pop on over here.
The siege tower has reached our walls.
It looks like the fencers have managed to bring the ram forward, and they're going to begin to batter down the gates. The Labyrinth player trying to put some pressure on, but again, the intervening architecture does make that quite difficult.
The enemy are battering down the gates!
It's a little bit loud. I'll turn that down just a tad. Looks like, pardon me, all the gates are being hit pretty well simultaneously. Mordor and the Shire coming together to fight as allies. Strange bedfellows indeed. And there's another gate over here that has yet to be assailed. Not too sure why. Looks like the orc fodder are trying to make progress towards it.
The enemy are battering down our gates.
I really wish that advisor would just be quiet for a little while. Tirthire marksmen making this a little bit difficult for them, and the towers, of course, intervening, doing a fair amount of damage to the orc units. Look at that. There's at least a third of the unit, I would say, probably dead on the ground already. Let's pop on over to the Umbar side of things. They are now beginning to batter down that gate. It will not be long before the attackers are able to breach the outer defenses, which have pretty well been given up to them. They've been ceded almost entirely, pardon me, by the defenders. Another point of access over here that Khan will soon be able to open up in order to see their ram in a decent position to begin to make an approach on the gate. I don't know what's going on here. I certainly wouldn't have all my archers together like this. It does make them a big target, although in this case, at the very least, isn't too much that the defenders have up in the walls that can punish them for that, as at least not yet. But I think that this would be a good target for the Eratherum, and I hope that the Labyrinth player recognizes that. And it seems like maybe he's trying to make a push over on this side. Yeah, I think that the Labyrinth player has kind of seen the the disposition of the Khandish forces.
Blast their
And there's
eyes.
not a
The
lot
enemy's ram is through our
of
gates.
anti-cavalry there. They've got the light horsemen, which are really good against cavalry. They've got very strong bonuses. I believe it's +9 off the top of my head. But the Erethirum will still scythe through them nonetheless. And then, I mean, what do they have to stop them? A unit or two of halberds the cavalry can easily outmaneuver. They can take a big chunk out of that Khandish army. And looks like Gondor's managed to get through their gates. They'll be coming face-to-face against the Madras, butting heads with the High Elves of the West. But as I was saying, yeah, would be prime target for the Erethirum. They could almost entirely knock Khand out of the game if they're able to use those cavalry to great effect. So that's certainly a big danger here. I think we're going to start to see that. Yeah, Erethirum, 1 unit out the gate. Here comes the second one. And of course the cavalry is going to move in, try and swamp them. Surround them is probably the best chance that these guys have to deal damage. Looks like the Khan player throwing all their eggs in one basket. I would honestly... This does give the second Erethirum group a chance to maneuver around. I'm not too sure what they're doing here. They're just kind of
The enemy siege tower has reached our
trying to get
walls.
away from the Khandish units, but they could easily beat them. I don't know why they take a rear charge in the back here. That seems like a little bit of a rookie mistake here. Could be that Ahmed Bush is a little bit unsure about the capabilities of these Erethirum, which does beg the question of why he would have brought 2 of them. It looks like this unit is going to throw the other one entirely under the bus. I don't understand why. This is a juicy target. This would be no problem. Like, look at this. This brief contact between these 2 units led to that many dead horsemen. Yeah, it seems Ahmed Bush is going to come back out the gate now. They might take a pass at the halberd, which is probably not the optimal target. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, the gates now, this sometimes happens. The gate gets a little bit buggy. And if you sally out with units, they won't close again. So there's really no point in him attacking these units at all. But fairly predictably, he's going after the archers. But the Erethirum here are really hard pressed. Fairy Egg Warriors, I believe, have retained their bonus versus cavalry into this patch. And I don't know why he'd throw Erethirum at a pile of halberds. That's really poor use of a very expensive investment. What he should be doing is doubling back over here, so some unfortunate micro here. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to criticize that pretty heavily. He's only got 2 cavalry units to micro out here, and there's like some static fights up here on the walls, but he doesn't really have to pay attention too much to those. Ooh, this is bad news, Bears. Khand is on the walls here in force. They've got Brotherhood of the Axe, and they've got some Variag units up there as well. Nandor Glade Guard and the Men of Dol Amroth holding the line as best as they're able. And it's going to be a big tug-of-war there between those 2 forces. I think the Nandor Glade Guard will probably be the first ones to fall, as they are kind of being squeezed in between 2 separate waves of Khand, although one of those is in danger of melting away very quickly. Brotherhood of the Sword have managed to make it onto the wall with relatively no resistance whatsoever. Khand is broken through at another point in the wall here, a gap created by Gondor. It seems like they're also ceding the streets here as well, opting instead to try and defend a much smaller area, which is, you know, a good idea, I think. That's probably for the best. Northern Warriors opening fire here on the front of Gondor Spearmen. Probably not the best thing to do, especially since they all have that armor upgrade. An unfortunate use of ammunition there. Some Gondor units have managed to break through. I don't know what they were fighting there. It could be Dorwinian. It's pretty hard to say. No, that would have been the Dol Amroth units. So Gondor has managed to smash through at another point here. Over on this end, Swords of Rivendell doing their best against those orc units, and they're going to do very finely. Yep. More orc fodder here being thrown up onto the walls. It does, of course, pin these units in place, and Imladris is certainly in danger of being outflanked, especially by Gondor and Khand, who've managed to break through in the center with almost no resistance. Let's see what Dorwinian is up to. It looks like a lot of their forces are being kind of saved for a last stand, so it seems like the defenders maybe being a little bit too defensive here. I think that there is the possibility to really bleed the attackers out here. What do we have over in this end? What happened here? Did they run over stakes or something? I have no idea, but it looks like, yeah, Ahmed Bush really used his 2 Erethirum. That's probably the worst that I've ever seen anyone use Erethirum before. Really, really unfortunate. I have no idea what happened over here. What kind of massacre could have happened to allow almost a full unit of Erethium to die? I don't see any enemy casualties in return, so I don't know. It's hard to say. Look away for a moment and everything could change. Well, up here in the walls, at least the Lamroth is managing to hold the line here. The Matic Warriors getting brutalized. Variag Warriors here under fire from I believe that's the Elvelyn marksmen up on the hill there, pouring in those fire arrows. Oh, those Variags really taking a big hit. They won't be able to stand up to that pressure for too much longer. And it looks like the Nandor Glade Guard that I predicted would probably fall apart are actually doing very well for themselves. The Lamroth, along with Dorween, have managed to rout the other wave here that was putting pressure on the rear of the Nandor Glade Guard. And with the help of those fire arrows, they've managed to rout another unit deadly. Really, really excellent play here. Even the Brotherhood of the Axe are like, maybe this isn't such a great idea. More Variag Warriors here being drawn into the fray. Looks like they're going to try and maybe link up with this company of Variag Warriors. If they enter those walls, they're going to be in real big danger. As you can see, some the Lamroth units are nearby. Although, these ones are going to pour in, so they might get surrounded. This is going to be like a double surround. They'll be the Warriors of Lamroth will be surrounded by the Variag Warriors in turn as they attempt to surround another unit of Variag Warriors. So it's a real big train wreck here. I wonder if they're like politely allowing the Lamroth units to go ahead of them. It seems like they are. You can sort of see them mixed in now. Oh, that's a real hodgepodge of troops there. That's just going to be nasty. This is just weird. It seems like Mr. Malsman is just issuing attack commands to his bowmen and not really paying a whole lot of attention to his positioning. I think they're probably going after the Elvelyn marksman here. I think the better thing to do than firing directly over this wall would be to try and move up onto the walls and put a fire into those units from there on a little bit more equal footing. Although, of course, that does leave you vulnerable to being outflanked, so use that at your caution. The center here, Gondor, Vivarex, being a little bit more patient than some of his more bellicose allies. Ooh, that's nasty. That's gonna hurt. Yeah, going right after those Imladris Guardians. That's definitely the right call. Definitely the right call. Northern Warriors here struggling to hold back this mass of heavily armored Gondor Warriors. And that says the fight is even, but those Peligir Marines are really in the process of evening things out there in favor of the attackers. Tier Marksmen, looks like they got caught out. Unit of Imladris Guardians here being just smashed apart. Although they are holding things up long enough for the defending archers to pour some supporting fire in up from the ramparts there on the second level. That's pretty nasty. These Imladris units unfortunately isolated, coming toe-to-toe against Sauron's will. I think this might be where the Imladris units start to fall apart, but these Sauron's will are, of course, going to be very bloodied by the end of this as they do start surrounded. You can already see a lot of those units beginning to fall there. Imladris, even the Imladris low tiers are really nothing to sneeze at. Born in River Ward, surrounded on two sides, one by Harvard Arms and another side by Fountain Guard. Very bad place for that unit to be. You have like another situation of just being a complete train wreck, just like a checkerboard here, of outflanking maneuvers. Swords of Rivendell surrounding X-Men of Lasarnak, who are in turn surrounding another unit of Swords of Rivendell in support of Gondor Infantry. But it seems like the Elves are going to be able to fight their way out of there with their sheer quality. Over here, all seems to be quiet on the southern front. Except, of course, for this brutal fight here going down in this gateway. But the supporting fire from the defending archers has managed to whittle down this Pelargir Marine unit. And it seems like Imladris may have a chance to bring it back a little bit. They are managing to surround the Gondorian units, at least on this wing here. It says a victory is currently certain for the Gondorians, but I think the quality of the Imladris units will eventually shine through here. Oh yeah, the Elvelyn marksmen really giving it to those attacking javelinmen. And those Pelargir Marines have basically been destroyed at this point. It seems like the defenders are very, very quick to abandon these outer defenses, which I think is a mistake. I think there's potential here to continue to bleed the defenders dry, especially in this central plaza. And with this hill advantage out here as well. I don't think that's something that should be so lightly abandoned, but we'll see how it works out for them. Mordor now definitively through here. It looks like the Shire has actually brought eagles as well. And so the eagles are very graciously using the door. That's nice of them. Very good house guests, these eagles. I think they probably want to get a piece of those Haven Guard. I know that the eagles do armor piercing, because apparently the whole Shire roster does armor piercing. They have a really nasty base attack plus charge bonus. So if they get into these Haven Guard, and it seems like they're going to be able to, ooh, that's going to be bad news, Bears. You can see that unit melt away very, very quickly. So it looks like Ambush, again, kind of not paying too much attention to a lot of the elite units that he brought. And some of the Haven Guard are going to get caught out. And now they're going to turn around and charge down the eagles. But then he's going to change his mind at the last second. I think that that was the right call. He probably could have gotten those eagles. There's nothing here that could follow up that charge. And the eagles are not great in a sustained fight. As I understand that they don't really have an attack. They can only charge. So once they're on the ground, they're very, very vulnerable. Instead, Ambush got to pull out here. Got some more Quindy bows coming out from Jervis to try and cover their retreat. Which, with that spear bonus, I mean, technically the eagles are cavalry, they just have weird animations. So we could see these eagles fall apart really quickly here. Yep, the eagles are in there, and you can see that the eagles don't actually have an attack. They're just kind of in there getting hit, and then the more Quindy bows are dying in return. So that's not a great use of that expensive unit. And indeed, the Imladris Guardians said they were starting to pull it back, but I think things are stacked a little bit too much in favor, especially with the addition of these Pelargian Marines here, of the Gondorians. And it might not be enough. No, Noritier, no, there's about 50 or 60 or so elves in there. They will hold these units up for a long time, and they are exacting a pretty brutal toll. Meanwhile, over here on the wall, these Dalaimroth units doing their best, but they were just so isolated, right? So the Adela men-at-arms here being pushed hard by the Kondish forces, although to be fair, they bled Kond dry for every step of ground they were able to take. A little bit of teamwork there from the Darwinian player certainly made Kond's life quite difficult. Bariag Warriors have managed to finally force the Dalaimroth units off the wall. Nuret Halberds now pushing their way up. This gate, though, still remains intact. It's surprising. I mean, the ram was right there. I don't know why they didn't bother to open this gate. Now they have to kind of go over the wall and get a little bit more tired than they would otherwise need to. Seems a bit odd to me. Kelvin River Patrol here from Commander Gervais falling back through the secondary set of walls here. And this is where I think the defenders are going to make their major stand. So what I'm hoping to see is that the attackers take some of their siege towers, if they can get them through the gates. I don't know if that'll actually work here on the settlement.
The enemy are through the walls. Fight on.
There we go.
We must get no further.
Mordor blowing some holes in the walls. At least they have that going for them. This is exactly what I want to see. This is going to devolve into like a classic medieval 2 kind of melee, which is something that I really like about the settlement, is that in a lot of ways it does mirror old vanilla settlements, and those were pretty good in my opinion. They certainly make for some excellent spectacles. So the defenders here, a tiny little unit. Oh, look at all that remains of those Elvelyn marksmen. Unfortunately, Captain Gervais was caught with his pants down here by the Mordor player, and they were able to tumble that wall underneath of a extremely healthy unit of Elvelyn marksmen who have gone from, I think it's like 95 down to 6. That's a big loss right there. It's hard to afford those kinds of sudden drops in manpower when you're the defenders, and now the defenders are actually behind. So it's never a place you want to be when you're a defender. You need to consistently be ahead. You need to be making good choices. It's a lot easier for the attackers to absorb catastrophic losses like that. Looks like, I don't know. Can they get up this tower? I kind of think that they can't. I know that Dalaimroth used to work that way. But I don't think WK would do that twice, or would he? Well, it sounds like some of the kind of evil, sneaky stuff that he would certainly do just for fun. We'll see. They don't have the greatest vantage point from there, and they are a little bit exposed, but again, there's not really anything up here that can damage them, especially now that this wall is down. They're not exposed to too much, unless it's direct fire from up here, so we'll see. We'll see how the attackers decide to approach this, because this is a really stacked defense. A really frightening defense in depth approach. But let's pop on over and see how Ambar is doing, because I don't think we've really looked so far. Well, it's a good thing we haven't, because not too much is going on here. Eldelond units sallying out to attack pikemen and some shield guard. This is going to go poorly for them, I would think, as those pikes really are able to deal damage with impunity to a unit like a Eldelond men-at-arms. So I think we're going to see them driven back here, and really, what's the point? Attacking them when they're just outside your gatehouse with a ram like this? You've just opened the gate anyway, so you've done their job for them. That's a little bit of a confusing tactical decision there from the Dol-Amroth player, Amit Bush, but we'll see. Yeah, I think it would be a much better decision to have them come in and funnel through this tiny little choke point where you can surround them and pound them with your missile units and whatever else you have available. I think there's some Keldwyn River Patroller here would certainly be very deadly against a pike unit. And that would be an excellent use of their ammunition as well, especially moving into the late game. Well, let's see what goes on here. Let's kick it up to full speed. Gondorians wasting no time in assaulting the front gate. A thin line, the thin blue line, defending this gatehouse. Again, Amit Bush kind of defending on the wrong side of the gatehouse. A little bit unfortunate, although it could be that they just caught these units as they were trying to make a retreat inwards. That sort of seems what happened now that I look at how strung out that unit is. What do we got here? Dead Eagles, yet indeed they have expired. Fountain Guard being brought forward along with Orc Maulers. Well, the Spearmen are putting up a valiant last stand, but it's kind of shocking that they're not routing, to be perfectly honest. I mean, they're basically surrounded and strung out on all sides. Oh yeah, now we're going to see some routing maybe as their numbers begin to drop. But still, they fought for longer than I would have expected. Wow, look at that. Yeah, that sudden drop in numbers is just too much. The morale shock mechanic kicked in. And now, the real fun can begin. Pikes on all sides, got Spears of Rivendell here. Halberds. We have more Morroquendi pikes as well. Hanging out in the back here along with some Elvelyn units. Ooh, big push here as the Shire tries to come through this gap like a wrecking ball. Backed up by some Orc Maulers. Those Ents are going to wreak serious havoc, but there's enough manpower here to make sure that those Ents stay good and gone. They're going to reduce them to firewood in a matter of moments, although help is on the way. Halberdiers moving in, Hobbits, I think some Dunedain Rangers in addition. Ooh, that's a scary unit. Those Dunedain Rangers are going to be nasty, and it looks like they're going to be firing into the rear of the Spears of Rivendell. Great positional play here, using that gap to their advantage. They're basically unassailable at this point from this firing position. There's nothing that the defenders have in position that can really destroy them quickly. Although maybe the Morroquendi bows up here might be able to fire through the gap, but I think it's still going to be indirect fire. Let's see. Let's turn things down just a little bit here. There's a lot happening all at once. Northern Warriors firing at the Gondorians. I think maybe what they should do is try and put pressure on the Dunedain Rangers. They have a decent enough gap, I think, here that they can get a good firing solution. Maybe moving a little bit farther up the line will give them an even better shot. It's just carnage down here. Absolute massacre. The defenders are really investing heavily in defending this choke point. And the defenders, or the attackers rather, are eager to take it from them. Let's see what these Dunedain Rangers do. I'm very eager to see what they're trying to hunt. Of course. Ooh, that's nasty. A lot of those very expensive, very powerful Eldarin Swordmasters being cut down. Thousands of years of training only to die to some Dunedain Ranger boy. That's real disappointing for these Noldoran warriors. And of course, these formation fighting units like the Spears of Rivendell with their lower armor values, the fact that they are so tightly packed, are a big problem. Now might be a good time to move them in here and get them out of range of the Dunedain Rangers. And we can start to see a lot of them beginning to drop there. Yeah, great positional play again from the Shire player, Scouts 88. And now the defenders are hemmed in by a sea of foes. Looks like there's still some Erethirum. Again being thrown into Spearmen, or not Spearmen, not like classical Spearmen, but Halberds. It's even worse, they're armor piercing. Kelvin River Patrol hitting some of their own cavalry. It's really unfortunate. I was expecting to see some like very devastating plays here from the Erethirum, and they just kind of died off and didn't do much. It was just a really anemic use of these units. There was a lot of juicy targets for them too, but unfortunately Ahmed Bush just didn't know how to capitalize on the opportunities that he had. I've had marksmen up here raining down death and destruction as the hordes of Khand march forth into the city. There's just too many of them, and there's not enough archers up on the walls. The casualties have so far been fairly light. Now you can certainly see some dead, those are Gondorian units actually on the ground. I didn't realize that Gondor had come this far east, but well, apparently they have. Yes, indeed. More and more nomadic units pouring into the city now, and Khan has a firm foothold in the first layer. And the defenders are really hard pressed at this point. Look at this, 36 to 33. They are still behind. Now, that's bad news bears when you're a defender and you're this heavily outnumbered. Nemothian Honor Guard now moving into the fray. Fountain Guard here, doing their best. But there's some nasty units in here. Halberds in particular are the bane of Gondorian forces. And I think we've also got some more Quendy Pikes. No, I could be wrong. I think that's a little bit farther over here. And it seems like the attacking momentum rather has stalled out, but they are in the process of opening another gap here. And what do they have waiting on the other side? Hobbitry and arms? Meh, not so great. A depleted unit of Sauron's will, but this is going to open up another avenue to attack, so the defenders will not be able to concentrate all of their forces on a single choke point the way that they have done to devastating effect. So what kind of reserves they have? Oh yeah, the attackers over on this end have only just begun to fight. There's still a lot left to come. Healthy units of halberds. I got some long bottom mob, which I think are the rock throwers, and they're also armor piercing, because of course they are, with clubs and melee. Got Proudfoot protectors moving in as well, so some really, really nasty units, including Blackguard of Barad-dûr. This is exactly the environment that unit thrives in. Being able to push through heavily serrated ranks of defending soldiers. That's going to be where they're at their best. Marquini bows here now in trouble. Looks like the Swordmasters are being thrown into here as well. Don't know why that would be the case. And yeah, they just given this whole area to the attackers. I'm not too sure what Nabest was thinking there. That's really very foolish. So now Commander Gervais's units kind of caught with their pants down, getting off a few final volleys here at the Sauron's will, who might just rout off, but it's not going to matter because the attackers are well and truly through here now. They're going to be able to flood in, and that's a big avenue around some really strong defending positions. I don't know what Nabest was thinking. That was just foolish. Gwathi Mirden being thrown in there by Nabest to try and plug the hole and staunch some of this bleeding. But again, it's too late. Oh, no, maybe they can salvage things here. Pilari Marines perhaps getting a little bit too eager, flying too close to the sun. They're about to have their wings clipped if they don't get out of there. There are some Dolomarith Halberdiers on their way. And you got that Blackguard as well. Blackguard, I mean, they'll be able to push through here. And we'll have their sentries backing up these units as well, but I think the Blackguard won't be able to do this on their own. And a lot of the Gondorians now are pulling out. Veterans of Osgiliath don't want to be there either. It seems like due to some quick action on the part of the defenders, they managed to staunch the bleeding. Blackguard of Barad-dûr pushing their way in. Hobbits now routing. Their allies now routing. We might see them rout off here before they're really able to make a dent in the defending positions. And of course there's nothing that's being used to follow up right now. So attackers had some momentum there, but they kind of gave it up a little bit. And oops, sorry about that. And the attackers as well, or the defenders as well, managed to react quickly and tourniquet that wound before it bled them dry. Mark Whitney bows heading up onto the ramparts, trying to rain some death and destruction down upon the attackers. Javelins here from the Kelwyn River Patrol being used to devastating effect. And that's going to be it. See a lot of those attacking units fleeing from this second choke point. I don't know. I don't know what that's going to mean for the attackers on this end. They are bringing up patrol catapults, so we could see some sneaky volleys through here. And this could be why they're waiting and biding their time a little bit. There go the Blackguard of Barad-dûr. Sad for them. Let's see what our... Oh, well, the attackers sort of losing their lead a little bit. It's almost dead even now, 43 to 44. Still in favor of the attackers, but only by an inconsequential amount. More units beginning to flee. I want to see what's happening over here. Looks like we got here just in time. Beligar pikemen do outrange the Edelon halberdiers, so without pushing into that formation and just a straight fight, the Edelon halberdiers, I think, will lose this. Unless they are, of course, able to move in on the flanks, which is facilitated somewhat by the narrowness of this gatehouse. So hopefully Emmett Bush sees the opportunity there, but you can see the halberdiers beginning to drop fairly quickly. And 81 pikemen here might just be all it takes to carve a red hole through the center of these halberdiers. I don't know if the addition of Edelon men-at-arms is going to help. Yep, these units are actually being quite soundly defeated right now. But the further that the pikemen push in, the greater the danger becomes of envelopment. So we'll see. I think I would give that to the Edelon halberdiers, despite the range difference. There's still a lot of really scary units down here as well. There goes the Gondorian general. That could be huge. Though they do have the Milithian Honor Guard there, and from what I recall, they have a very substantial Inspire effect. Nonetheless, starting to see some routing here from the Gondorian Spearmen. The Milithian Honor Guard holding their ground. But even the Fountain Guard are thinking about routing here. We could see a mass rout in the aftermath of the death of the Gondorian commander. Well, this Fountain Guard, they're not liking it. Eldorinois units do cause fear. Looks like we had some Eldorinois archers on the field today as well. Well, this Fountain Guard are in a real bad position. Second company being brought in, along with some Citadel Guard and some spearmen in their shield wall formation. That's a lot of mass that's going to get thrown at these guys. I think we're going to see a mass push here. Right through the center. There's only so many Eldorinois, and this is certainly the weakest part of the line right here. Well, Olokai being used to great effect. Defenders aren't out yet, though. Some reinforcements from Dorwinian positioning themselves in order to continue to bottle up the defenders here on the secondary choke point. Starting to see some bulging here on the defending position. There are some River Patrol being used well, I think. Dunedain Rangers, ooh, feeling the wrath of the River Patrol. Adela Men-at-Arms being brought in, but I think more reinforcements will need to be funneled into that area. Looks like these guys are out of ammunition. Yeah, they would certainly be needed. As the Blackguard begin to buckle the defending lines. And the Blackguard on their own won't be able to win this, and they are on the verge of routing. But this is an opportunity for the attackers, and I hope that they capitalize on it. To get more troops in there, and to try and break up these lines here, and break their way through the choke points. Continue to put pressure on the defenders, and whittle down those numbers. Now it looks like the defenders have actually pulled ahead here. By a fairly substantial amount, about 5% difference. That is a good deal considering the number disparity between both sides.
Only half the enemy force remains.
No Return to Warriors here, backing out. Being saved for a later date. Now with the Gondorian reinforcements, the situation has stabilized. It's a real back and forth here. The defenders start to make headway, and they certainly did in a really big, substantial way with the death of the Gondorian commander. But now Gondor has rushed in enough troops that things are looking grim for the defenders. Over here, though, I think they're going to do just fine. But if the other choke points collapse around them, that could spell disaster. There's a fairly substantial commitment down here on this the second level. And there's still some reserve units. Ooh, Kond is really stalled out over here, but we'll return to that in just a moment. But up here in the Citadel, there are still some reserves. Got some more Quindy Bows, some Glade Masters, some Pikes, and some Alvelin units. And looks like a few scraps that routed off from the battle in the first and second layers. But if they lose all of these troops down here to an encirclement, that might be the end of the game right there. Looking at Kond. Kond is just getting brutalized. Kond did not have the force needed to be able to push choke points. They had a supporting army, but they've kind of had to spearhead this assault mostly on their own with some limited help from Gondor. I think I see the Hammer Guard down here on the front lines. Along with more Quindy Pikes, Captain Gervais is handily defeating the Nomads. You can see some breaking here. Nomadic infantry heavily reduced, breaking off from the fight. Big bowmen moving up to try and fill the gap. But I think this is all we're going to see from Khand. Have any forces still remaining up here in the walls? Doesn't look like it. Some reserve units down here. Fresh company of Gondorian infantry. A few Pelargir Marines. Some long-bottom mob, which will be useful. But that's a big group of infantry routing off here. Got some Gondor infantry. 64 strong group of Gondor infantry. Now Gondor is in trouble again. Go the Limai Niaur being thrown into the fray. It's a tough one. Now most of the action is kind of centered up here. I think we can turn up the speed a little bit. Mark Windy Bows firing down into the unarmored mobs of Shire warriors. Ooh, going after some of the bandits here. I really do like the reskin, although it seems like their spear tips need to have their UV maps adjusted a little bit. But I really do like the reskin in the model for these bandits. I think they look very scary and unique to the Shire as well. Troll Catapult now might not be the worst time. I mean, there's a big blob of defenders over here. And if they're positioned kind of like where, just slightly to the left of where these Bandit Brass Archers are, it's pretty hard to miss. That would go right down this line here and assassinate a huge amount of units, take a lot of pressure off of Gondor. So hopefully we start to see some movement from the Troll Catapult. It's entirely possible they are out of ammunition after breaking down the walls, but if they're not, there's certainly a missed opportunity here that's not being capitalized on. Orc Javelins doing their best, trying to put some fire into the Eldred and Spearmen. Can potentially be a very efficient unit because of how cheap they are. Talon Knights, quite the Arthan, feeling their wrath. More and more volleys pour in here. Shaving some of the HP off these units. Keldon River Patrol on the verge of breaking. But it seems that the defenders still have this quite well in hand. Some remnants of an Olokai unit that was pulled out over here, being brought in to try and push their way through. And that was too much for the Keldon River Patrol. Yeah, the sight of those monstrous Olokai was enough to send them fleeing for the hills, praying to Eru that they survive this battle. What we got here? And looks like Gondor is successful in breaking their way through here. Now they're going to be able to attack the rear of this other choke point. That's a huge breakthrough for the attackers. Morquendi up here being pushed by Gondor infantry. Oh no. That's going to be the end here. They're going to be cast to their doom off the ramparts. That's game over for the Morquendi there. They're going to be killed down to the last elf. Longbottom mob up there. That might have been what kind of turned the tide here a little bit. And now the defenders, I don't think they were really prepared for it. They're going to need to fall back here with everything they got as quickly as they can. Save what they can. Gwythi Myrdain pulling out, Gwythi Arthond as well. Go the Limai Niaur. There's still some rearguard units up here. But this is going to be a big loss for the defenders. There's still a lot of manpower down here. They've got pikes, very healthy pikes that would have been a great thing to have. For some reason the Erethirum weren't pulled back, even though they had the mobility to get out of there as quickly as possible. That's also going to isolate the Halberdiers over here, and whatever forces were down here pursuing the Kondish. And it looks like Rex Jervis actually managed to get most of his troops over here. So I think that if the victorious units that beat back Khand were moved over here, and they're going to now pin the Gondorians in place. This is going to be a tough nut for the attackers to crack, because there is still some barriers that prevent the Kondish units from coming up from behind. So if these Rammoth Halberdiers are used well, they will be able to hold up the Kondish for a very long time and extract a very, very deadly toll. But nonetheless, the defenders are surrounded and isolated down there on that second level. And Umbar, there's still the matter of Umbar. Umbar's coming in hard, but they're suffering mightily at the hands of the Nandor Glade Guard and the Dol Amroth Men-at-Arms. Keldon River Patrol assailing these hemmed-in and defenseless units, and Omar's really taking some devastating losses here. I wonder what they have left. Did they go all in on that assault? Not quite. They've got some Royal Guard. They got some blackguards here as well, which are decent melee units and also javelins. Balaketh Axe Guard moving in, 2 companies of them by the looks of things, but I don't know if that's going to avail the Umbarim of too much in this situation. Especially these units begin to rout. Yeah, that's pretty tough. I think we could start to see those Balaketh Axe Guard actually begin to turn things around a little bit. Hammer Guard here and the Nandor Glade Guard are a nasty combination. These guys have high damage and armor piercing as well, so we'll see. If I was the Ambar player, I'd probably split my Balaketh Axe Guard, send one after the elites there, and then another one after the men-at-arms. Kirthar Marksman just kind of sitting out here. Doesn't seem like Ahmed Bush is really paying all that much attention. Erethium of Dol Amroth just sitting around again. Looks like the Gondorians were beaten back, potentially? I think they were, so we will see kind of a miraculous, almost Dunkirk-like evacuation here, where these assailed troops managed to hold their line long enough and escape to safety. So now that is going to be some much-needed manpower for this final line of defense here for the blue team. Let's see, we got Haven Guard for Ahmed Bush being pulled back. Maybe these units are going to be thrown into the fray down here to try and delay things as long as possible, but I don't know. A really valiant rearguard action here, speaking of, by the Elder Enemy Spearmen, who are being swiftly overrun, but they are allowing their allies time to escape, and they might just rout off these Orc Archers here. They're going to fall back here and try and move to a more advantageous position, or maybe even try to escape down here. I wonder what is going to become of these units if the attackers come from behind them. Could see another massacre. And we've got those crossbowmen in a really good position to rain down hell upon certainly the Dol Amroth infantry. I don't know if the angle really gives them much of a shot at the Glade Guard or the Dorwinian troops down here. Oh. I thought they were shooting at the fencers for a second there. We'll see what becomes of the Corsair crossbowmen. Now might be the time to commit these units, I think. I know Umbar doesn't have too much left, but the Royal Guard, I think, would be a welcome sight in there. I'm pretty sure that they also inspire, which will certainly be welcome for these flagging Umbar troops. Those Glade Guard have really held out well. They're extremely melee defense heavy, so the armor piercing of the Balaketh Axe Guard doesn't really go very far against them. But against the other troops that are arrayed here, it's not bad. There we go, raining down crossbow bolts upon the defenders here, and it looks like the Glade Guard. Oh, I don't know what they're doing here. Oh, okay, they are going to go up the. They're going to scale the walls here. One final devastating volley into the defenders is going to reap a devastating toll. Well, they might get one more off before this Glade Guard manages to get up there and stop the Corsairs. Yep. Painful, and I think this is where the Hammer Guard get overrun. Yeah, there they come. They're going to come from behind now. And those Corsair crossbowmen are going to be not long for this world. Switching tack now, back to the other side. What do we have here? Reinforcements for the attackers. Got some Rangers, and I don't know what happened to the Elder Enemy Spearmen. I wish I kept a closer eye on that. But I don't see any dead bodies. So it could be that they managed to escape somewhere. But in any case, let's pop back into the center here. I think the defenders have managed to rally everything that they were going to be able to. Got some spearmen here, so maybe that they turned around in the chaos managed to slip by the attacking lines. One final push here from the Adhelon Halberdiers. I don't know why they were out here. I probably would have brought them back inside myself. I think this could be the unit that was left at the gatehouse. Indeed it was. So they managed to pull back and form a final line of defense, but they're going to do really well here, actually, against a lot of these units. But again, I probably would have saved them.
the enemy force remains.
Well, it's hard to say. There's a lot of light troops here that these halberdiers are quite strong against. We got here one Norreturner warrior rushing down to help. Look at this valiant elf. Let's see if he manages to take down that Peligir Marine. I'm curious. Oh, the halberdiers did it for him. It's like, yeah, that's what you get. Staring down in contempt at that poor brave soul's corpse. Singular Eldarinway swordsman has joined the fray as well. Let's see what these guys get up to. Oh no, that poor Norreturner was taken down by a Nazgul. What a terrible way to go. And another Nazgul facing off against the Norreturner, or rather the Eldarinway Blade Master. See if he can manage to deal some damage. Doesn't really seem to be attacking too heavily. He's really just kind of on the defensive here. 2 Nazgul. Now taking on that Blade Master, and down he goes. Sad for him. I think we're going to see the end of this valiant group of halberdiers and the small number of volunteers that came down to try and help them hold the line just a little bit longer. Well, if we look at that, 80 to 81%. Things are pretty dead even here, slightly in favor of the defenders. And they do have some really good positions and a lot of fresh troops here. But there is another avenue of attack being opened up by the attackers. Small amount of troops here being drawn back for some reason, but I think we're going to see indeed the wreck and ruin of the defending forces that were stationed down here. And they are all destroyed at this point. Proudfoot defenders, a lot of skirmish units here from the Shire. It's most of what they have left, I think, at this point, as a lot of their brandy buck and armor-piercing units were used to try and push choke points. And our Glade Guard just kind of chilling up here, not really sure what they're doing right now. They might try and escape up the hill. I think that would be a good idea, just to try and save as much resources as possible. Ooh, very sneaky. Very sneaky indeed. They're going to go all the way up here, and then they're going to come and reappear at some point up at this defending rampart up here. Although that does certainly mean that the attackers can use that to their advantage. There's a lot of skirmish units down there from the Shire that could take these ramparts if they're not well defended. We got here Temple Executioners. Ooh, a very healthy unit of Temple Executioners, in fact. This is the Mordor General right here. I don't know if the defenders can do this. They have a lot left over, but there's some really scary stuff, and there's some very valid positioning concerns coming from the attackers, especially what I just mentioned there with them being able to use these ramparts with their skirmish units. So if they recognize that opportunity, then that might be it for the defenders. You can't survive being pushed to the choke point, but also peppered with some nasty missile units, especially the Proudfoot Protectors right here. Well, let's see what happens. Bit of a lull in combat so far. Marquindy bows laying down some fire here alongside the towers, and the towers have actually managed to ignite. Whoop! To ignite one of these Mordor siege pieces. That's bad news for the trolls. They've only got, what, one other piece still remaining? That's a big win for the defenders right there. Let's see what happens. They managed to break down walls and such. I don't know if the defenders can hold 2 choke points, or 3 choke points all at the same time. Nope, they're going to go after the gatehouse. I mean, it's not an efficient use of the ammunition, but it could be that they don't have enough ammo left to break down a wall. You can kind of eyeball that pretty well. Or they don't feel like walking all the way back and grabbing a ram, which, you know, I don't blame them. It looks like the catapult might be out of ammunition, so I think that's going to be what they're going to have to do anyway. Yeah, we might see somebody to go get a ram. I mean, we're only halfway through. We're at the last choke point here. It's a very ragged force on the inside, just a lot of like leftovers, you know? A lot of battle-weary soldiers. There's a few full-strength companies that were kept in reserve of Elven infantry and the Morquendi pikes, but most of these units have seen combat, and they bear the scars. Morquendi bows there at full strength as well. Glade Masters also. These units here are fairly badly mauled. And we'll see what happens. Aha! Here comes a ram. I don't know why it's going up this way, though. There's not really any... Oh, there is a gatehouse. What do you know? So they're definitely going to need that to bust their way up there. Though they could just use the walls to get around that, but it might not be apparent. But if I ever play a siege as the attacking force on the Dale map, I'm certainly going to exploit that for everything it's worth. But I'm going to go ahead and maybe fast forward a little bit here. No, it might not be necessary. We'll kick it into 2 times speed. I think we might start to see some very piecemeal attacks. I'm not sure what those Orc Javelins would be expected to do all by themselves. There's those 20 Nandor Glade Guard who like sprinted up the walls to get here. Yeah, darts raining down from the towers. The attackers can only afford to be idle for so long. Well, they managed to break down the gatehouse. I guess there was maybe another shot left in that catapult after all. Now the attackers are going to throw everything they got here, and they really don't have much of a choice other than to do as much. Do those Shire units come back up from down here? Are they not? Oh my goodness, they're not. The Shire just left Umbar here. That's a big opportunity wasted. I mean, that could be... Umbar, I don't know if they have... Well, they might have the manpower. They certainly have some crossbows here that can be pretty scary for the pikes and the massed infantry, but... If Umbar is not able to do this on their own, then they just gave up a huge opportunity. Certainly a game-winning one. Because pikes can do work in choke points. We all know this. Let's go ahead and turn things down here. While the players turn it up. Final choke point being put under pressure. Oh, look at that officer there for the Olokai. Spearheading the assault. What do the defenders really have for their front line here? Decent amount of hammer guard. Some skirmishers who are out of ammunition. Although I don't see this first assault really going anywhere. There's not a whole lot that's like genuinely scary. There's some bandits, there's some depleted Dunedain Rangers, some Variag Archers. Yeah, the attackers really need more than this, otherwise you can see this first assault here begin to crumble, and indeed we are. Variag Bowmen routing off in massive numbers. And another unit about to follow suit. Yep, there they go. Now the Shire is rushing in there to try and maintain the momentum. I wonder if that catapult has any ammunition left. Look at this Olokai, though. Surrounded by a sea of foes. There's still some Temple Executioners in there, so if the defenders move too far forward, they might end up getting caught in a really bad way. What are the Proudfoot Protectors doing? Oh, they're trying to get out of there, I see. But they're hemmed in on all sides as well. Oh, the Troll Catapult does have ammo.
The enemy general lies dead.
There goes somebody's general. I'm not too sure who that was. It looked like Legolas. Oh, nasty. Just zapping a ton of those Morquendi units out of existence alongside Hammer Guard. That'll be the only shot they get off, though, as the enraged Hammer Guard charge out the gatehouse. Looks like those Proudfoot Protectors actually routed off. Don't know how they got behind there. What did they do? Oh, it seems like reinforcements have been drawn off of this choke point. And Umbar is now banging down the door. And they are through. So some fresh and still pretty scary units from Umbar that remain. They got Blackguard here, you got Corsairs, you got Fencers. And of course you have the Narnar Royal Guard. Like, this isn't a pushover force, or like kind of leftovers like what the attackers on the other end have. This is a serious threat. And it's not really being taken all that seriously. What we got here? Well, they've been routed off, and this attacking momentum is starting to stall out. Well, some of these varied units have come back from routing. There's not a lot of infantry left. I think Gondor is like completely spent, for example.
Good tidings. The enemy general lies dead.
Ooh, that's pretty nasty. 87 to 83. Defenders might just be able to do this. Ooh, what's happening up there? I saw some missiles coming up. Ah, Casimir's Rangers. I didn't even realize they still had those Casimir's Rangers. A nice shot there into the defenders. What do we have here? More Quindy bows. Chasing them down against our Royal Guard. Those bows won't do well. Oh, Glademaster's also leading the charge, though. That's scary, but I think the Rangers should be brought up onto the walls. With the Arthond, not all the defending momentum shifting to the other side to meet the Umbar threat. It's good news for the defenders. Obviously, this isn't what the attackers want to see. So Umbar is going to pull back from that fight, not wanting to get themselves completely wiped out. I think the other attackers are going to take this opportunity to attack the now weakened central position, which is just great teamwork on their part. Intended or not, this is a real nice bait and switch. Hobbit skirmishers here can be used to potentially devastating effect as these units move out against the attackers. They're going to find themselves exposed on the flank, and they're going to be in such great concentrated numbers that these Shire skirmishers can do a lot of damage to them. Maybe it's enough to pull them back. We'll see. Oh, now the long bottom mob routing off. That's bad news. Both of them going to run away. They were barely even attacked. A few of them were. That guy getting stabbed to death with a hammer. That sounds like an unpleasant way to go. These Variag bowmen need to hold the line, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it for too much longer. These orc skirmishers routing off. We're going to see a big mass rout here, which might spell the end for the attackers. I don't think they've got anything left that's not Umbar. Speaking of Umbar, let's see what's happening down here. Haven Guard, Elvelyn, and maybe the Glade Lords. I think they might be coming through the gatehouse. Oh, just some Dorwinian forces here pursuing the attacking Umbar army. Corsairs positioned beautifully up there in that wall. Corsair fencers scything through the Elvelyn, and the Haven Guard here are going to quickly find themselves overwhelmed, as I don't think the Elvelyn infantry are going to be able to stand up to this too much longer. And they'll probably rout off back to the upper levels of the city where they'll reform. Alright, Glademaster's out here and exposed. If Umbar manages to break through, could be a problem. And now the attackers have sallied out of the keep, and they are pushing the fleeing skirmish forces of the red team back down to the second level. And I think this is all of the con units left over. Nope, they still got one unit. Okay, so they're still in the fight. These other units will have a chance to reform potentially, but they've been routed off quite a lot. They're very depleted. They're very tired. We might not see anything else significant from the Condish player. We got up here Gondor Spearman in the process of routing. Looks like Vivarax has, I think that's Vivarax at least, who has admitted defeat. Now it's all down to Umbar. The attacking hopes and dreams rest on the Army of Ambar. We got up here some defending archers potentially up on the walls. No, that would be a good position for them, although I doubt anybody has any ammunition left at this point. Swan Knights moving in, and now the Corsair Fencers are going to make their move. Wow, they're fast. That's obscenely fast. And with the support of the Corsair Fencers and their armor piercing, and of course, the Overwatch fire from the Corsair Crossbowmen up on the wall, this will probably be a loss for Dol Amroth, but I don't know if they'll be able to, if Umbar will be able to get through here with sufficient numbers to really threaten the supremacy of the defending force in this battle. Let's pop back up here. Let's see if we're going to get any reforming units. Well, they're pursuing them as far as you can. Some of these orc archers came back. But they're just going to get cut down by the swan knights that are there, these long bottom mob. If only they would come back. They would be so useful. More dismounted swan knights. If only the attackers had some more manpower, they'd be able to kind of take advantage of the fact that the defenders are now so strung out, chasing units through the lower levels of the city. Is there still a fight going on down here? Probably the Temple Executioners, I would think. It's kind of hard to tell. There's so much defending infantry left over.
If we continue like this, we will smash the enemy.
I can't tell. It's probably Nazgul or Temple Executioners, though. Let's see. How's Umbar doing? Oh, those javelins. Doing mighty well against these units, but that means they're not going to have javelins for later. Let's kick it up 2 times speed here. See how Umbar does. Ooh, nasty. Those dismounted knights. They're not going to have to fall back. And now Umbar is through. Let's see what Umbar can do.
Flees the field. Pursue and run them down.
We still have a fair amount of frames left. There's still 11,000 frames yet to come. So let's see what Umbar managed to accomplish on their own. This is just devastating, especially down here. It was a real back and forth. The defenders were winning, and then the attackers would do some maneuver, and then the defenders would manage to kind of stop the bleeding, and then the attackers would do something else. Like, that's just fantastic. I really enjoyed watching this. Yeah, dead people all throughout all levels of the city. They really used all parts of the animal in this fight, which is always fun to see. I thought we had some additional units here from Mordor. Unfortunately not. The Blackguard are just kind of stuck routing forever in the city.
Victory will be ours.
89 to 93. Still very close. The only significant difference, I think... Oh, nice job! I was just about to say, he should be using them to pin them in place. And he uses missile units, and look at that, he's going to drive them back from yet another choke point. But as I was saying, the match is still fairly even in terms of percentage. It's just that the defenders have units spread across several players, whereas basically everything left from the attackers is relegated to the Umbar player, Ellipsis. Well, we're going to throw at those pikes there. We'll probably take a few of them down, I would think. Hopefully he doesn't charge through the gatehouse. No. Ellipsis is playing this smart. This is what I like to see. Keeping his team in the game. Oh, Jervis isn't going to go for the bait, though. Now might be a decent time to move up some of those skirmishers. I heard someone's horn go off. I think we're probably going to see this kind of devolve into a bit of a stalemate here. So I'm going to go ahead, take it up 2.5 times speed. Because this seems to be, yeah, where the fight's going to happen. Umbar's just taking their time, maneuvering. They still have rangers, which is a huge thing to have at this point. I think it might not be the worst idea to maybe try and bring them up here. It does expose them a little bit to fire, but there's only so much that these guys still have remaining. Jervis isn't going to take that lying down as those Corsair crossbowmen maneuver themselves into position. Morquendi Glade Lords, I think, are coming forward. Nope, it's just the bows. Run, crossbowmen! Oh no! They are going to get caught out there by the Morquendi bows. That's a big loss for Umbar if he doesn't manage to save those crossbows. They still have ammunition. Like, this is important. Gotta get them out of there. Pikes have come forward, exposing themselves to attack. This is an opportunity here, and looks like Jervis is going to be real aggressive and go down there, but he's going to be blocked in his advance by those Corsair fencers. And this is where it could turn around. Are they going to get that volley off? Oh, yeah, they are. Oh, that's nasty. Oh, this Blackguard just scything through the defenders. 91 to 93. Ambar putting up a brilliant last stand here. And they can move up and still do the same thing that they're doing right now. Moving forward with some more Blackguard. Get these units up the hill a little bit. Ooh, kind of clear the line of sight for these Blackguard units. And now would be a great time to get some Rangers up there on the wall and fire down into these Morkwenny units. That would turn this fight around in a heartbeat. I hope we see it. Casimir's Rangers are right there. They are in position. Gonna go ahead. Fast forward things just a little bit. Oh, now the Corsair units are being pushed back. This is a great opportunity to use those Rangers. This needs to happen. If he doesn't, this is the end for Umbar. He can't lose this manpower. He can't trade this way. Yeah, there's no counter here to the Rangers. Like, this could be huge. And if those forces were swept from the field, there are still some other ones up here. Maybe that's what he's saving his ammunition for. You know, I take it all back. This is a rough one from Umbar, but that small unit of Javies, they're making all the difference here. The fencers are still around, still holding up the line. Yep, slowly but surely cutting their way through here. We're going to go ahead and kick it up 2 times speed. Yeah, we might see the pikes rout off. 92 to 95. Up come the Corsair crossbows. Hoping to put an end to this endless debate here between these two sides. Well, down goes one of the Godali Mineower, knocked over by a fencer. There's a small line of elves here holding up all these Umbar forces. Gonna go ahead here. Take it up to 2.5 times speed. Looks like these units are gonna fight pretty well to the death. Go to the Mineower, pushing down into the Corsair Blackguards. With such a small number of them, won't really be able to accomplish too much. We'll get down there and witness their last stand. Kick it up to about, I think, 1.5 speeds while we'll run it on from now on. Still about 6,000 or so frames left. I'm very curious to see how Umbar handles this. If they can pull this out, like, it'll be a miracle. Narnar Royal Guard moving forward pretty well. Full health unit. The Morkwenny pikes have been swiftly dealt with. And that was just 2 Mineower guardsmen remaining holding up this Umbar army. And, like, what do they have that can stop these guys? Like, Rangers will be able to fire pretty well freely into a lot of these important units here. It seems like Jervis doesn't want to give things up easily, so he's going to move his pikes out of the fray. And instead he's going to move the Elvelyn infantry in loose formation in front of that archway. Maybe try and bait out some volleys from the Rangers, giving them no other target. You know, what's the option going to be if they want to get anything out of the ammunition they have left? Maybe that's what they end up having to do, but we'll see. Crossbowmen moving forward. Let's see if Jervis is willing to take the bait here. Let's see. Oh yeah, it looks like ooh, they're gonna get a volley off at point blank. It'll kill some of the Elvelyn infantry, but the crossbowmen are going to want to get out of there for sure. Yeah, the Blackguards will need to be moved forward. Oh no. Looks like these crossbowmen are in there for good. If this keeps up, there won't be enough of them left to be a real threat.
If we continue like this, we will smash the enemy.
Hope they get out of there. Run, boys! Run, you filthy pirates! Alright, they're having trouble. They're not used to being on land. They haven't quite... they're still operating on their sea legs, I guess. And we're going to see a lot of this kind of back and forth here as both sides try to maneuver and pull the other side out of position. That's unfortunate. Some lost ammunition there. Still very close. 3% difference. Maybe thinking he was going to feint a little bit there. Oh, they're loading. I don't know if Gervais has seen this. Could be that he hasn't. He wasn't expecting them to get it back up there with those crossbowmen so quickly. Ooh, that's going to cost the Elvillan unit there. It's going to cost them quite dearly in lives. Now they're going to move forward. Looks like... Oh, he's going to let them get caught again. I would have moved them back and like tried to use the momentum of that unit to string them out a bit. Maybe hit them with some of these jabbies this lower main here. I think the Corsair Blackguards still have jabs. Oh, and they're going to get stuck in, and they're going to meet the same fate, I think, as the pikes from earlier. A quick ranger volley there might actually pay off. They're not really in position to do it, though, I think. Oh, they're also out of ammunition. That's a big thing. I didn't realize that. That's not great for them. These are all the skirmish units that he has left in that case. Let's see what we got here. Who managed to get up here? More 20 Glademasters. Fighting against what? Oh, a Nazgul. There's like one Nazgul up here who's like holding up the whole show. I'd happily watch that. Nazgul just murdered another Glademaster. Like single-handedly slicing his way through all of these elves. That relentless, it's real powerful.
If we continue like this, we will smash the enemy.
Doesn't look like any of them are really in a position to attack him. They're just kind of shuffling around him. So this Nazgul is just kind of slaughtering people at will. Not surprising. Oh, the Elvillan taking another shot from the crossbows. Another handful of the Elvillan are going to fall there. I don't think he's going to get a second volley off before Gervais notices. Indeed, he's not. And this exchange is kind of working out in favor of the Elvillan, to be honest. I think now might be a good time to just surge forward with the Blackguard and continue to attack the Elvillan. Don't let them just kind of feint back and forth like this.
Very much in our favor. Victory will be ours.
Try and be a little bit more proactive in pinning them in place so that they can be focus fired down with some armor-piercing missiles. I guess it doesn't really matter too much in the long run. There's not a whole lot that Ambar has that's not a projectile that can answer these pikes. Let's go ahead. Nothing's on 1.5 speed like I said it was going to do. 2 might even be more prudent, I think. This one Nazgul is still up here just racking up kills. They finally managed to kill the damn thing? Doesn't look like it. Oh, now they're finally able to attack him. Might see that Nazgul die here finally.
The battle is very much in our favor. Victory will be ours.
That's scary. This one Nazgul, man. This must be the Witch King himself or something. So he's just not taking any guff off of anybody. Doesn't care who you are, elf, man. He'll cut you in half just the same. Turning into a dwarf.
The enemy army flees the field. Pursue and run them down.
Let's see here. Big push involving the pikes and I think some bowmen potentially from the walls and the Glademasters. And the crossbowmen should probably be brought back a little bit. Whoop. Oh, wow. I didn't even see it coming. Just trying to maneuver down here. An attack from the rear by the elves. Into the Darnar Royal Guard. Defeat is certain for them. Certainly it is, with Gwythi Myrdain and Gwythi Arthon. I think this is where we're going to see the Corsairs make their last stand. Unfortunately, they never managed to advance beyond this this 1 point here, but Ambar did great. You gotta hand it to them. They had some tools they could use to like potentially win the match, but if the defenders made the right mistakes, but not having the Ranger ammunition, which I didn't realize, that's a big black mark against their chances for winning this. So perhaps they overestimated it just a little bit, but still, you gotta admire them for being like double teamed like this and still sticking it out and still fighting to the end. Royal Guard here, fighting their hardest, but I don't think it's gonna matter. These Black Guards now finally out of ammo. Nope, they still have ammo. It's not gonna matter. They're gonna be crushed here between the weight of these two defending forces. 99 to 94. Put it on 2 times now. Casimir's Rangers on the verge of breaking there. Gwaithir Myrdain taking light losses. And that's going to be it for Ambar. An ignominious defeat for the player who, in my opinion, probably played this the best, I think. Their positioning was really on point. I love the way that they used terrain. For the attackers, I would certainly give the MVP to Ambar, I think.
We are victorious. Our soldiers have fought and died well today.
There you go. Final count is about 4% difference. There you are. You see the big difference there. That's because the screen, the casualty screen, it lies to you. So all of the kills here are accurate, although it's not going to be the same for the attackers as well. They would have gotten more based on what was left. It's just that, you know, 10% of the attackers or something like that. Yeah, it was like 10% or like 14% ended up going back to them. It's not included on here. So the attackers, I think, did really well. There were a few problems. Mr. Smallman, did I call him Marshall Smallman or Marshall's Man? I don't know. It's a weird name. Probably, and you can see that he visibly did the worst because he just didn't have a good army. It was not an army that was, I think, viable for pushing the chokes here. That's kind of what ended up being needed, is that the attackers just didn't have the manpower at the end, because all they had was like skirmishers and things like that to throw at them, and that was most of Khan's army. I don't think I would have gone that skirmish heavy in a siege like this unless it was part of an explicit strategy, and it didn't seem to be. Ellipsis did really well. He didn't get the most kills, but like we saw how well he played that. He had some really tough points to push. He was getting double teamed basically the whole time, but he still managed to hammer his way through with some excellent positioning and some like kind of deep strikes with his crossbowmen and such onto walls. The Shire did pretty well, although again I think they ended up being a little bit too skirmish heavy. I don't know if I'd bring the Shire in this kind of situation. They just don't have. I mean, they have a lot of armor piercing, which can be really nice, and I suppose the numbers are pretty good here. So if you're taking them as part of a team, then I could see that being useful. But still, in sieges, my personal preference would be to kind of err on the side of things that have high shield and high armor values. And there's a lot of factions in the game that have more staying power, I think, than the Shire. We're more of an open field rush faction. Mordor, they did their best. They had a lot of troops. I think Mordor did this exactly as you would have expected. They played well as part of their team. The only thing that could have been done better is the Blackguard, or the Black Legion, whatever they're called, the Barad-dûr. Not using them with any backup was just a waste, and we saw like 2 very healthy units of them just rout off. And part of that is because like a lot of momentum evaporated around them, because they were fighting alongside the Shire and things like that, things that don't have a ton of staying power. But still, the Blackguard I think could have ended up being used better. Gondor did really well. I'd say like Gondor and Ellipsis are pretty well tied for the players who probably played this the best. So hats off to them. Jervis was really canny with his plays. We saw there a lot of like feinting and a lot of like back and forth there with the Ambar player Ellipsis. Nabest had some questionable decisions in game, but like at the end there he ended up surrounding the Ambar army, putting an end to the argument, which is great. That was kind of what needed to be done there. Otherwise Ambar would have continued to fight on for pretty well ever. Ahmed Bush had some real questionable plays there. Allowed a lot of his forces to kind of be isolated and really didn't use his Aerotherum well. That's why his numbers were so small, and I think it's a big part of why he didn't manage to get nearly as many kills as his teammates, who managed to almost double his score, because he invested so much in the Aerotherum and then he kind of just threw them away. It was a little bit unfortunate to see. But nonetheless, great battle. Thank you very much, Captain Gervais, for sending it to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you join me for whatever comes next. Take care, everyone.